This meeting is being live streamed.
That's right.
I got
And
it.
we're live.
Hello.
Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michaels. Glad that you are here. We have a great episode lined up tonight. We have Judson Graham with us for episode 217. Can you believe it? So glad that you're here. If you're just chiming in, your name's getting written down in the spinny wheel of winny things, and we're going to give something away before the end of the show. As long as the power doesn't go out there where Sean's at, he's got some storms rolling through. So I'm super excited about tonight's episode, and you should be too, because Judson is with us. Also in moderation, Anthony Peregringo and Sean Nafsker. I don't know where everybody else is, but glad that you guys can moderate because I can't do this alone. I want to just shout out a couple of sponsors. One of those is PPG Smoke. PPGsmoke.com is the website. All kinds of great stuff to add to your flying repertoire. Headsets, lamels, chase cams, strobe systems, float systems. We got all kinds of systems. That's ppgsmoke.com. Also, paramotorprops.com is one of the sponsors. If you are looking to get a great deal on some new props, you can go to paramotorprops.com. Best deals on the interwebs. That's paramotorprops.com. Also, the show is brought to you by American Allied Drains and Plumbing. American Allied Drains and Plumbing. If you're in the San Diego area, you're in need of plumbing, American Allied Drains and Plumbing is your company. If you mention Paragliding Talk, you will get a 10% discount on your services. Call them up right now at 844-777-9055. 10% discount could be substantial when it comes to plumbing. Many of you guys didn't know this, but Judson is a former elevator guy. Would have never known. You would have never known, except for that I told you, or that you followed his channel in the very beginning, like I did. I was subscriber number 3.
That's
No,
impossible.
that's a lie. He said that's impossible. Padre Brook PPG donated $5 to the super chat. He's starting off early. Resurgence PPG, let's go. Thank you for that contribution to the super chat. You are amazing. So many people logging in. Judson's
okay.
He's bringing the visitors.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Donate to Resurgence.
Yeah.
I like Todd. He's cool.
Yeah, Todd is pretty cool. So I'm glad you're here. We're going to mention a few things throughout the show, so I'll interrupt you and do some commercials like they do on the radio. But for now, we're done with the commercials. Judson, thank you, and I'm sorry to interrupt you 4 times now. First, I want to ask you, how did you get into the sport of flying the old backpack paramotor?
I'm going to start from the very beginning.
Yeah, how did you find out? There's some people that don't know you, maybe 1 or 2,
okay,
maybe 4.
Sure. So to preface it, I've always been really into flying, aviation in general, but my family was not necessarily into aviation at all. Like my father wouldn't get on a plane until 6 months ago, and then he got on a plane and jumped right out of it, which I found baffling. Anyway, I saw the Tucker McDonald's video.
Wait, hold on a second. I need more content. He finally did get in an airplane and then he jumped out. Did he fly or no?
He skydived. He hadn't been on a commercial flight since his honeymoon in 1994.
Okay.
And then the next time he was on an airplane was to skydive, which baffling.
That is baffling. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for clearing that up for me.
Sure. So I saw the Tucker McDonald's video, and everything in it seemed very familiar to me. And then I saw some local landmarks and went, oh, this is in my backyard. Literally. That park is 2 miles from my house and where I played Little League and all that stuff. So once I saw the paramotoring thing of, oh, this guy's flying around with a backpack fan on in a seat, I was like, that is the thing I need to do more than anything ever. I just remember that feeling so vividly. I was at the beach, and it was in August of 2017. So after that, I just started researching a little bit, and then accidentally ran into Tucker, the man, in a coffee shop in our local town. And I was going to go to college for photography at the time. So I said, hey, man, he was starting Risky Biscuits, the website and everything. I said, hey, I'll come out, take pictures for you. Let's hang out. It was quite awkward, and we're it was funny, and we ended up hanging out, and I watched him fly, and I saw a paramotor fly for the first time, and it was magical. I remember that moment as well so clearly. Of, oh, it's real. You can do this. So that was in December of 2017, and then in about January of 2018, my late buddy Jeff Chorba said, "Hey, do you want to learn how to fly paramotors? You seem really into this." And I said, "Absolutely." So him and I would meet at the park for kind of all of late winter and early spring of 2018, and he would just teach me how to kite and teach me about Part 103 and just general flying practices. And I'd hang around everyone flying, so I'd lay out wings and carry motors and do all that stuff and just kind of immerse myself in it. I got, I would say, proficient at kiting, and then in June of 2018, Sucker decided that I was ready to fly and talked me up on my first flight over a phone call.
Realistically, how many hours did you put in before you considered your?
Oh no. Oh
Oh
no.
no, the host. The
Oh no.
Hey, you froze there.
You're still there. Someone probably texted him or tried to call him.
No, I put my phone on do not disturb.
Oh, my internet
You.
glitched.
Yep.
Yeah, it did. It told me.
Call
Okay,
Elon
I'm good.
Musk.
I'm back in the game.
Okay, how many hours
Elon-
before I flew was the question?
No, how many hours till you were proficient at ground handling?
I think that's hard to really put a figure on, but I could keep the wing overhead and forward and reverse in not ideal conditions after probably a month and a half of kiting. Every day it was kiteable, so probably 10 or 12 days a month. And then I just kind of refined it over the course of the next 3 months, just running around the park and running off hills and stuff like that. So
So
I think,
you did quite a bit of ground handling before you got in there.
yeah, I think that ground handling is super important in general. I think it's kind of overlooked by a lot of people. I know that it's like preach, just keep kiting, but really, I think it's super duper the fundamentals of flying. But that's how I started. That's how I got my first flight. And then I did end up working in the elevator industry. I got that job in October of 2018, which was after I started flying. And between my first flight and then, I had been bumming basically gear from people and just staying current. And then after a few months of working in the elevator industry, I was able to buy my own gear and then just flew as much as possible. So that's how I started.
And didn't you end up? Wasn't your first get up? I thought you had a Scout. No.
No, so I started.
What was your first motor?
My good friend Dan Mass sold me his mini plane with a top 80 on it, and I had a Spider original
Dan.
20-meter. Yes, and then in November of 2019, so my first year of flying on my own gear, I got a Scout, and I still have that.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Dan pulled through on that one.
He
I
cut me
remember
quite
what it
the
was
deal.
like. Say that again.
I said he cut me quite the deal. He's a good dude.
Yeah. I remember the first couple times that I flew paramotors, people loaned me their stuff. It's a big deal because I've blown up some props now, and I don't know that I would let some new guy, especially a free flight guy, loan my motor. So you guys are very nice. Those
I don't
people
know
that
if
did
I'd
that.
loan my gear to some 16-year-old that kept showing up, but they did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about now. So we're looking at a span of approximately 5 years, give or take, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
That you flying. At some point, you decided, you know what? I'm gonna involve myself deeply. I'm gonna step away from elevator mechanic world, and I'm gonna work towards maybe even instruction. At what point did that transpire? What was going on inside your head to decide, you know what, I feel like I can teach people?
Sure. I mean, I'd love to say it was some kind of revelation I had where I'd love to give back to the community, but I think that happened a little bit later. I think I started instructing at the time for kind of a more selfish reason, but in October, not in March of 2020, COVID happened, and I got laid off from the elevator industry. And I'm sitting at home. I hated that job. And I'm talking to my parents, and I'm like, "Hey, I really don't like doing this." And they said, "Okay, well, find something else to do, and you
Too
don't have
many
to go
ups and
back."
downs.
Yeah, exactly. And I went and pursued a career with higher ups and downs. But I called up Eric Farewell because I had met him once, and he was the only person I knew at the time who was doing paramotor instruction. And I said, "Hey, I'm free. Can I come down to Florida and try this whole, thing out and try to intern?" And so I made that call, walked back inside. I said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Florida next week, parents." And I just started doing that. So interning, laying out wings, all that stuff. But then it was not until a little bit later into it when I started to feel confident in instruction, and that I could impart what I had learned as a paramotor pilot onto other people effectively, and started to appreciate the art of teaching, where I was like, this is such a cool way to give back and repay the community as a whole for the generosity of the people, Jeff, Dan Tucker, Frank Bages, all these people who allowed me to begin in this sport. So that's how I got started in it. That was in June of 2019. Yeah, maybe 20, no, June of 2020. Yeah, years. So paramotor instruction is really special to me. I really enjoy it now.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your involvement in that. It started off, you're just helping people learn how to ground handle. You're talking like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have you walk towards me with the glider, put it down, bring it up. Then we're going to put a motor on your back. At what point were they like, okay, you know what, Judson has enough sense to get someone on radio up in the air and back down? And was there a transition? Did you have any training to become a trainer?
Yeah,
Talk a little bit about that.
absolutely. It's kind of a slow integration. I like the way that aviators doing that. So I just started out as a second hand for everyone, but then slowly they'd start working me on kiting instruction first. So just talking to people in the field. Then when I could do that, they'd take students who were confident with like 10, 15, 20 flights and say, all right, you're going to work with Judson now under the supervision of a more experienced instructor. And then once that was going well, they took away that supervision. And then it wasn't until about October of that year where I got to solo my first and second student. And that just happened really naturally. It's a really natural progression. I really started to appreciate the art and all of the ways of teaching, like learning teaching as a craft and as a skill. And it started to become rewarding because I wasn't just progressing as a pilot, but I was also progressing as an educator. I thought that was really fun.
Was there ever a point where you're instructing that you thought, I need to not be on the ground? I hear a lot of times instructors, they get ground suck and they're constantly fixing other people's stuff, and they don't get to fly very often because of the role that they took.
Well, I think it's important to set boundaries in that regard, and being able to say, hey, I need to take time for myself before I'm able to assist you, but in a way that's mutually beneficial for everyone. I've definitely been in those scenarios, but sometimes it's more rewarding. A lot of times, actually, it's more rewarding to be on the ground when somebody's, let's say, beautiful sunset, and I take them up to 1,500 feet and say, hey, dude, kill your engine, pop your ear cups, and just land on the field. And then you just get to watch them, and they're calling back on the radio, like, this is the coolest thing ever. And it clicks for them. Like, that's more fun than being in the air most of the time.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say that. It's pretty awesome. I
Yeah,
like that.
but sometimes if something stressful happens on the field, or you just need to go clear your head, then you need to be able to say that, like, hey, I'm going to go take my 10 minutes of flying and I'll come back and this will be beneficial for everyone. That kind of move.
And sometimes you need to be the wind dummy.
Well, yeah, that's a really good excuse.
Yeah.
I want to go. It's
I'm
like
gonna go
zero
check the air.
gusting 1,
Yeah.
6 a.m. Like, I'm gonna go make sure it's okay, guys.
Yeah. I want to make sure it's not turbulent
Just
for you.
double check, you know?
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the different instruction styles now that you've been in that role for a little bit. East Coast versus West Coast. We talked a little bit about this before the show, and so
Yeah,
I thought it was a
sure.
very interesting topic.
So what I've seen in the paramotoring world, and what especially opened my eyes up to these two separate camps of instruction, was going out to Salton Sea. But from what I've seen, there's kind of two origins of paramotor instruction style within the US. On the East Coast, you have Eric Dufour, and then on the West Coast, you have Del Shanzi. And for better or for worse, I mean, he's a great instructor, but you have those two camps. And the East Coast style, what I saw at first, is less kiting intensive, more focused on repetition in flying. So when I first got to Aviator, we would spend 2 to 3 days kiting, just a couple sessions. It's like, okay, you can do it forward, we're going to tow, and then we're going to fly you. Whereas and a lot of focus in that style on ground school, motor maintenance, airspace, that kind of stuff. And then the West Coast style, what I saw with Team Fly Halo and what I learned hanging out with Trevor and other people who had studied under Dell, was that they just kiting. You can't kite enough. Keep kiting. And then maybe when you're like a super duper pro, you can put a motor on and we can do this. And it's less of a step-by-step thing. It's more of just you're super good at kiting, put this motor on and just full power and go. I think that kind of the Goldilocks of that is somewhere in the middle, where you do spend a considerable amount of time kiting. So in a 2-week course, let's say, the first 5 to 7 days are just really getting the ground handling dialed, and then progressing to flight operations after that. And that's just the two ways I've seen it done. And in having people, namely Dave Taylor, come to Aviator, I've seen who has a background in that West Coast style, being a former instructor at Team Fly Halo, seeing that those two styles can mesh really, really well, and seeing the benefits of, hey, what if we spend 3 more days kiting? How does this affect our operations on the field? Which is basically less blown launches, less equipment damage, less people damage. So that's kind of what I've seen in the paramotor world.
The West Coast just take your perspective takes longer.
I don't think it necessarily takes longer. I think there's just a much stronger focus on kiting, and there's sort of a division in the paramotor world. There's all these separations and cliques and everyone. And I think finally people are starting to come together and say, hey, we're all doing the same thing. Why don't we learn from each other? So like Trevor came down to Aviator recently, and we learned a lot from him, and he learned a lot from us. It's kind of beneficial.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that. Trevor's actually in the chat right now.
Hi, Trevor. I miss you. I'm coming very soon to see you. So we'll hang out, ride bikes, and fly things.
What is the what was the big takeaway that you said you got from what they brought to the table?
Kiting instruction. They're
Say it again?
like kiting instruction.
Oh, kiting instruction. Okay.
Dude, they are so good at teaching kiting, like ridiculously good. Like I thought I was decent at teaching kiting, and Trevor blew my mind in like 5 minutes with a student. He'll just stand behind them with his arms folded, then walk up with this little bundle of words, this perfect analogy, and tweak their body, and all of a sudden it's working. So I learned a lot about teaching somebody how to control a glider from him. And I believe that mutually he learned from me a lot of the classroom stuff. So airspace classes, weather classes, FIR Part 103 classes, things like that, and a more structured, aviator's got a very structured classroom curriculum. I think he learned a lot about that. So we both walked away learning new things.
This is like literally the hope that we have for the future of the sport, that the schools aren't just bickering at each other and talking smack about each other's to win someone that could have got training here or there or there. It's literally to be better instructors. My whole hope.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is the show. I've like deep down wanted to see more. I don't want to sound like, shoots and Candyland and Shoots and Ladders, but my hope is that we would cross these bridges. And when you told me that earlier, I was like, man, that's so awesome. That's exactly what we need.
Sure.
Desperately.
I think we're at a really volatile point in the community as it grows, where the vibe I got at Bad Apples and Salton Sea this year, as opposed to last year, is so much more of a we're all in this together type of community, rather than this disparate, you trained with him and we won't talk to you type of deal. I think there's a lot of people, if we just use the Dell example again and the super training example again, there's a lot of people in the community who I know feel quite ostracized for absolutely no reason other than the person they chose to train with from the beginning. But I think that the community is really starting to come together. I'm flying different gliders. Everyone's a little bit less cliquey about, do you fly Dudek or Ozone or Gin or whatever. So just getting that whole, brand loyalty thing out of the way, school loyalty, location loyalty, just what can we learn from everyone to make this entire experience overall more enjoyable, safer, right? That's my mission.
Yeah, and it's a good mission. It's a worthy mission. We've got a handful, and I'll tell you from perspective, looking back at your instruction in the beginning, it seemed like a little backyardish. You've got Tucker helping you. Although Tucker had quite a few years under his belt and motoring and some videos and some proof that he could instruct and train, it came off as kind of like well, if Tucker can train him to fly, surely someone can train me to fly, and we'll just go out and send it.
Sure. I think backyardish is a great word, number one. Number two, there's certainly a distinct difference between somebody who's an incredibly talented pilot and somebody who's an incredibly talented instructor. Most often those things go hand in hand, but it's not necessarily true, right?
Right.
So I think just experience instructing makes a good instructor.
Yeah, that is a great point. You can be the best pilot in the world and suck at community outreach,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teaching's an entirely different art form. Being able to articulate is really complex, like fleeting ideologies of kiting where it has to happen fast in a way that people can grasp it and be able to hold on to it is really where it becomes the challenge.
And remember it.
Yes. For example, I had a student who kept two things Trevor taught me that were huge. Just the body positioning of the student is incredible. I've always kited a lot with my body, moving around, using weight shift, just having your body in the right spot. And that wasn't a huge emphasis in the way I learned to teach kiting from Aviator. But then Trevor came by and was like, hey, here are some 3 things you can do to change how your student's body is that will make it happen better. So always looking at the low wingtip and sticking your butt out towards the high side of the glider in reverse, and boom, all of a sudden you're weight shifting and putting your hands in the right spot without even thinking about it. And then I had a student grabbing their risers consistently, and he's like, "Hey, dude, if you were driving your car and you started to go off the road, would you just grab your dashboard?" And they're like, "No." And he said, "Well, that's exactly what you're doing when you grab your risers. You're just holding on for dear life with zero control." So things like that.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh yeah. And
We want to.
what do we got?
I want to give something away real quick. We're 5 minutes early to the giveaway, but we're going to do it anyways because some people just log in literally to win something.
Getting the itch, Robert? Are you getting the
What are you
itch?
giving away?
To spin the wheel.
He's
Spin
trying
the
to
wheel.
throw him off. He's trying to throw him off.
Okay.
Yeah.
No more names.
No
Okay,
more
I'm not
names.
taking any more names, and I know it's
I
on the
have-
lag, so
I have
Gallery.
one more of these to give away. These things are actually amazing. They're called Booms Fishing. It's a retractable keychain deal. It's got this little retractable deal. Anyways, I actually gave one of these to Jeff Hammond the other day, and he was like, "Oh, that's perfect for a mirror. Check your fuel levels." So he's going to use it for that. You can use it for your phone. You can use it for whatever you want. You can put chapstick on the end of this. But I'm going to be sending you one of these. All right, spin the wheel, Sean. Shall we?
okay. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Y'all can see my screen, right?
Oh, I can see it, dude.
All right.
BGD.
Now,
All right.
by the way, the spin of this wheel is brought to you by Calamity Kite Clinic. Go ahead and let it rip. Calamity
Talk about
Kite
alliteration.
Clinic. Yeah, calamityKiteClinic.com is the website. They literally only focus their school on ground handling. It's amazing. You want to sign
Awesome.
up? You can
I'd sign
up at calamityKiteClinic.com, and you will be the best. Also, I want to mention Nebraska PPG. Josh Bowden runs a school in Nebraska. If you're interested in some top-notch training, you can sign up with Josh and his team today. There's a link in the description. Also, this show is brought to you by MaxAcro.com. MaxAcro.com. Max Marion runs a school and has been doing some SIVs lately. Go check out his website at maxacro.com.
You say that every time.
Ooh. I say that every time. What do I
You
say?
go check out his wife.
Check out his website.
I know.
He doesn't have a wife yet.
I know.
Oh,
But they did.
yes. Hell yeah, Dave.
Dave Taylor.
David
congratulations.
Taylor.
Dave Taylor is
Congratulations.
my bro. He is my homie. Congratulations, buddy. You won a thing.
Told
I
you
miss
this thing is definitely rigged. That's how you know it's rigged. When stuff like
don't
that
think it-
happens.
I think Dave deserves whatever gift he just got.
Yeah. Do you want to see a closer look at that? So Booms Fishing. Okay, so Hot Butter Steve just donated $20 to the super chat.
Thanks, Steve.
And he said, this message is brought to you by Nebraska Paramotor. Nebraska Paramotor, we drive way too fast to worry about our cholesterol. I like that. By the way, David Taylor, please reach out to me through the website, paraglidingtalk.com, and go to the contact section. Yes.
Hey, Resurgent PPG, Todd wants to know real quick. I'm going to interrupt here.
Yeah, go
Sean
ahead.
and Ripa, what did you guys get at Bad Apples? People want to know. Sean, you got to unmute yourself.
I got a lot of things. I did, but this is something that I'm proud of right here. You know?
Oh,
I got
that's
a lovely,
special.
beautiful coin, you know, which is awesome. I definitely appreciate that, Todd. And this shirt, as a matter of fact, you know, yeah, had a great time with everyone. It was awesome.
Did you go to that, Judson?
Ripa was
What's
showing.
that?
Were you at Bad Apples?
I was briefly at Bad Apples. Yes,
No kidding.
just for
I saw
Saturday.
him. I saw him. I didn't say anything because, you know, I don't want to be
I
that guy.
had a lot
How you
going
doing,
on
Judson?
here in this chat, and feels as though I was distant or missed your hey. There was a lot going on, and I do apologize.
It's all good, buddy.
Did you like my my thumbnail that I didn't copyright any of your pictures. I had my own picture for the thumbnail for this video.
Well, so I did, and I was talking to Dave Taylor yesterday on the phone, and he looked up the podcast and he said, "Where the heck did somebody get that picture? You look startled in it." And I said, "Well, it looks like somebody flagged me down while I was on those dirt bikes, stuffed a camera in my face." And he said, "Well, that's exactly what it looks like." And I think that's what that photo is.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, it's actually GoPro footage. When I was getting ready to launch, I was like, "Hey, that's Judson. Hey, Judson." And you're like, "Arr!" He did a burnout, by the way, in the video. And I know what happened. He did the burnout and then he was like, "Oh my gosh, actually, you were thinking, I think I just threw a bunch of dirt on his wing, but you didn't. Nothing touched the wing." You looked back and then you were like, "Okay, I'm good."
No, he didn't care.
Didn't care?
Oh, and if whoever was at Salton Sea had the camp that looked exactly like ours, and then I rode through on the dirt bike like at 11 p.m. and just started revving it like crazy, whoever that was, I'm terribly sorry. I've told everyone this story, but I got lost and then like rode to the wrong campfire and just rode through everyone's campers, and they're like, "What the heck are you doing?"
Oh, that is so funny.
It was a little bit embarrassing in the moment, but
Yeah.
like, oh, this is the wrong spot.
It was probably down at the other end where you guys were, close to your camp.
Yeah, it was like 30 yards away.
Oh,
it was
that
super.
is
It was
so funny.
It was one place over. They had a one-wheel track and everything. Like we had a one-wheel track. They had a one-wheel track. We had a fire pit. They had a fire pit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to come to the Salton Sea Flying. It's amazing. If you haven't been to one, sign up for next year. They're
It is
super
such a
fun.
spectacle of paramotor joy.
Yeah, and if you want to buy tickets, you just reach out to me, and yeah, you can just pay
I'll
me.
be there.
Yeah, Judson will be there. It is amazing. Let's talk a little bit about. You've just dropped another video. Oh, by the way, Will Fly donated $5 to the super chat, and he said Resurgence PPG rocks, and they do. That is a fact. You ended your last video that you posted, and you said that there was going to be a new adventure.
I'm in
Care
Kansas.
to share?
Well, for one, I'm in Kansas right now.
There's 77 people that came to watch this just to hear what you're going to be doing next.
So, short and sweet, I'm moving west, no super set location right now, to make videos full time. So,
whoa.
Yeah. So, long version of that, I went out to Salton Sea in no large part thanks to Dave Taylor, because my van blew up, and then I was like, "I'm not going," and Dave was like, "You should really go, buddy." And I went, and then I was going to leave and go somewhere else, and he's like, "You should really stay." Anyway, long story short, I ended up really hitting it off with the Team Fly Halo guys, and in particular Jason Lahell, who's let's say he's a Hollywood like film director dude. He knows things about making videos, and he asked me what my passions were and what I really wanted to do, and I said that at some point I'd like to be able to make videos and be able to sustain myself off of sharing my experience with other people. And he's like, "That's awesome, you should do that." And a couple of months later, we stayed in touch, and Team Fly offered me basically a deal where they were sponsoring me to move out west, cover living expenses, and make videos full time, with the goal of getting my platform to the point where I can self-support as fast as possible. So I couldn't pass it up. I really couldn't.
Wow, that's awesome.
And yeah, and so right now I'm pointed west to begin that journey, which it still feels entirely surreal. But
literally right now, you're like halfway.
Right now, I'm in the middle of Kansas. Like, in the U.S. map, when you zoom out on Google really far and it says U.S. in the middle, I'm right there.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty awesome.
so it feels surreal. I've started, so little pre-teaser for you guys. JudsonGraham.com. I've started merch. I have a merch site.
Wow.
It's done. It's public. It's
Dude,
just
that is so
announced.
funny.
It's
I
called
was
Paraphernalia.
I was grabbing my shirt because I always think, what shirt am I going to wear for the show? And sometimes it's an advertisement or whatever. And I was thinking, Judson's going to need a shirt soon.
Hold on.
Oh, that's amazing.
I just
How
posted
far
his link on the
west?
chat.
Mark
So
Wrench, tons of great questions.
This is breaking news. Then
It
this
is.
is breaking news.
You know,
He saved the best for us. You see
Okay.
this, Robert? Nice.
Okay, so here's one of the first shirts. There's a few designs right now, but we have the Paraphernalia
nice.
I like that.
quality paramotor
Like
inspired
it.
apparel, and then we have these mirrored paramotors on the back, drawn
that's
by
nice.
Jackie Brown from Salton Sea, paramotor friend. So
Nice.
just trying to make paramotor stuff that's cool, that supports artists, and that can make me a little bit of money. So that's going to be announced hopefully next week. And then going along with that, I've started a Patreon, which I hope people will unsubscribe to, but will subscribe to for additional content. So up-to-date stuff, behind the scenes stuff. The Dell interview will be on there. So those two things I hope really help expedite the process.
Like that.
And then making cool videos about cool stuff and really not compromising on being myself. Yeah.
So many people come into the sport with a desire to share their experience. So what happens, I would say 95% of the time, is people buy a paramotor and a GoPro. And not all of them have a dream to be, this celebrity status in the paramotor community. Some people, they just want to share their experiences, but you've taken it to another level of quality, and you're thinking your videos through. You can tell that there's things that you're putting in there, that there's quality and the content, and you're taking people somewhere from the beginning to the end. It's not just watch me fly for 30 minutes and listen to the noise of the engine. You are focused on your sound quality. I remember one video you posted and you were deliberate on, I'm going to make sure that this audio is perfect. And you took people down that road. I do want to encourage people to go and subscribe. I was interested to know how many subscribers you had just passing through, and now you have somewhere around 5,000 subscribers. And some change. It's crazy. I remember when you only had maybe like 500 or 600, and you were sharing a coffee video that you were making coffee. Super cool. But anyways, I do want to talk about this because I'm sure that there's going to be a handful of people that are interested in creating videos. Your vlogging camera choice, and talk a little bit about maybe some, just quickly on some editing software. What is it that you're passionate about, and what is it that you're using these days?
Yeah, I first of all, I've been drawn to photography and cinematography long before I've been flying. So having a subject matter that I'm passionate about that I can film is awesome. But yeah, I'm just really focused on storytelling right now and finding my own unique thing. Like, I just find people who have their own unique look to be the most inspiring, like Wes Anderson. He's freaking insane. But in terms of the vlogging setup, I've always believed that you can have a super pretty video, but if the audio sucks, it's terrible. You can't watch it, right?
Yep.
So audio's always been really important to me. So I kind of obsessed over that. There's a few microphones that work well. You can adapt a lavalier mic to do it, but I think that the Cena, whatever Cena part I mentioned in that video, is the gold standard right now. And then the PPG smoke noise canceling fancy 3-wave thing is also quite good. But you just need some sort of microphone that's really resistant to wind and has some sort of compressor built in, some sort of compression circuit built in, so it can deal with high noise, and then, and keep it all level. And then that just needs to be able to go to some sort of adapter device that will take a 3.5 millimeter audio jack and adapt it to USB-C to go into a GoPro. Right now, and if we want to get into gear real quick, I use a GoPro 9 and 10 for in-flight stuff. Thank you, Team Fly Halo. And those are magical. They look fantastic. And the color rendering and the sharpness is fantastic. And the stabilization is ungodly. And especially my new favorite thing right now. Hey, Matt, Luke B, if you're watching, I have your GoPro Max Mod lens and I will ship you a new one. I'm sorry. The GoPro Max Mod lens, the really wide one that will do the horizon leveling thing, is my new favorite thing ever.
Is that for the 10 or the 9?
A 9 and 10, but it
Okay.
keeps the horizon. It looks so cool. So I use those for the in-flight stuff mostly. And then I have my darling right here, the Fujifilm X-T3, which is one of the greatest cameras ever made, in my humble opinion, for people creating things, and a Rode Video Mic Pro on top with just a 16 to 80 zoom lens. I accidentally stumbled into Fujifilm because my dude Nick Radford cut me an insane deal on this thing, and then I just fell in love with it for its color rendering and its autofocus. It's just such a pleasure to work with. Everything's a dial, so there's like a dial for exposure compensation and exposure and ISO and aperture, and everything's tactical. I love that. The autofocus just locks onto your eye like a laser, and that's good. So I use this for most of the on the ground stuff and love it. And then if I want to be super sexy, which I try to be all the time, but if I'd like to do it in a video especially, I take a page out of Ryan Southwell's book and fly with the X-T3 mounted to my leg on a gimbal. With a gimbal. So I have a baseball, or maybe it's for hockey. It's a shin guard with a piece of PVC attached to it that the gimbal slides into. And then this camera sits on the gimbal and is stabilized. And then I point it at paramotors, and it's just really hard to mess that up. So that's my favorite thing to play with right now. And I just got a different lens that's a little bit lighter for that operation. I wouldn't recommend doing that if you're newer or don't or care about your equipment at all, because you are like launching with this very expensive setup in a bag on your lap. And then when you're filming, it's really hard to focus on the stuff around you. So it's important to fly with pilots you trust, one, and then brief the entire group on what you'll be doing. Just be like, hey, I'm not going to be looking out for you the whole time, so just like keep an eye on me, because I'm going to be looking through the camera a lot. But I think that's like really cool. I like that a lot.
Sound familiar, Robert?
What?
What are you talking about with flying with the camera and taking shots and
Yeah, flashbacks.
Well, yeah, we got Jeff Hammond photographing us all the time.
He was chasing us through the slot canyons.
Go 180, turn left 180.
Turn left.
Get closer to the rocks. What?
Judson, you mentioned PPG smoke, and
Yeah.
he's actually watching right now, and
Hello.
He sent me a text message. I want to just share this. He's got version 2 coming out of the headset, and he's
Oh,
interested to
cool.
know whether or not you're going to be on board with the new headset stuff. You should check this out. Let me see if I can pull this
Yeah,
up here.
I'll talk about what I think about it really quick.
Stop screen sharing.
I think that
some cool pictures here.
I like that mic connection better.
yeah,
Yeah, and
that
that's slick.
microphone's amazing. So the paramotor helmet headset thing, I don't think anyone has a perfect solution for, and I think that the direction that PPG Smoke is going on that front is the most correct. I have two priorities for my helmet. One, I need good sound isolation and good music quality. So some sort of noise canceling headphones like the Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds are by far the best option for that. That looks sexy.
Yeah, this is the I don't know if he wants me sharing the schematics on here, but he's got these. There's going to be a little this is behind the scene information, by the way, folks. Cutting edge from PPG Smoke.
So don't tell anybody.
No, it's all right. They're actually putting a little microphone on the inside of the helmet to help mitigate some of the issues that they were having with sound.
Yeah.
And, yeah, pretty cool.
The other thing it needs to do is have really good audio quality for filming, and that's more specific to myself. But I think that the PPG Smoke headset has all of the integration, and on a smaller part, radios are useful. Being able to run a radio, make phone calls, that kind of stuff is super important. But those two things are cool, and I just like that PPG Smoke is going in a modern direction with this kind of stuff, where it's USB charging and you can charge a GoPro off of it, and it's not just old technology that's just been like shoehorned from the motorcycle world into the paramotor world.
Right, good point. It's literally designed by a paramotor pilot for paramotor pilots.
Yeah, and that's only going to become more on other stuff as the sport grows, but it's just that there was not enough demand for a while, I think. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I'll try it. I love trying stuff.
Yep. Heck yeah, man.
What else we got?
So we've got some questions from the chat, but I have my own. I want to bring my question first because I'm important.
Yes, you are.
What do you think about free flight?
You're validated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Talk to me about your free flight experience. I'm a free flight guy first, and then a paramotor guy, kind of.
My free flight experience is small. I'll tell some stories real quick. Yeah. But one of the things I want to do on my way out to meet Team Fly and everybody is stop at Point of the Mountain and go free flying in a controlled environment, because that's something I have not done yet. So I'm excited for that. Free flight is amazing. It's an entirely different discipline. It's more frustrating, more rewarding. I think it's just another facet of curved floppy fabric glider flying that's fun to learn and do. So I have done not a lot, but I'd say a considerable amount of motor thermaling. I would say I can like catch a thermal and go up. Like I can do that, and then I can find another one. So I have that. I'm terrible at it, but I can do that. So that's how I learned the use lift thing. And then in terms of actual free flight experience, the first time I free flew in a free flight harness for real technically was my SIV at Skylab, but really the first time was with Mark Honeycutt in North Carolina. And it was July 4th of 2021. And he brings me to this mountain and there's no wind, zero. And he's like, well, you got to hit some lift to make it to this LZ at the bottom. There's no way to glide there unless you're on something really spicy. And we're on Mojo, so we're not going to make it. And we run forward off this hill, and I mean, very nearly go in the trees. If he's here, he will attest to this. We were like, close enough that you could see that it was very much, within grasp, the LZ, but it was for sure no way possible that we were going to make it. And we both just miraculously hit this thermal in the middle of the woods and climbed out and made it. And I was able to soar for like 45 minutes. And that was just freaking incredible because I caught some thermals and got to like 4,000 feet. It was fun.
No
so that
kidding.
was my first time. Yeah, that was my first time. And it was magical to be up there in the harness and everything's loose and you have a ton of feedback from the glider and it's fun, but just almost going in the trees was really not amazing. And then I did some free flying in Moab at Mineral Bottom. We did some cliff launches, just sled runs. It was about 1,000 feet vertical. And we just mobbed down the side. And then winds picked up in that valley. And I was able to soar for maybe 20 minutes. And I was like, this is so sick to soar. And then my last free flight experience was Piriot Mesa, which was the sketchiest day of my life. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Piriot Mesa, but it's a mesa and the sides of it are straight up. And we hiked up it and it was really scary. And it was a really, really hard hike. And it's really just only base jumpers go up there. And this is on a free ride, by the way. This is on like a regular hike and fly.
Motor wing.
Yeah, it's on a motor wing. There's a Mustang going by.
We know.
I blew 2 launches. I was going to call it at 3 on the third one. I just somehow got the wing up and got off the cliff and then was able to soar this thing for like 45 minutes in the sunset. And it was just smooth, easy lift. And it was just so magical because I worked so hard for that. But I would like to free fly on paragliding equipment at a LZ that's not questionable, i.e. point of the mountain. So that's where I am with free flight. I love it. And I'd love to do more acro in a free flight environment as well.
How was that SIV with Skylabs, by the way?
It was definitely informative. There's a lot to unpack there. It was overall good. I learned a lot about negative things because I had never experienced a spin or a stall before, but I had pulled all the collapses beforehand. So I knew what an asymmetric, full frontal beeline stall, I knew all that stuff. But the experience of having a wingtip slip negative or your wing full stall was entirely new. And then I saw Leah do a heli and was like, I need to do that. And then bought an extra wing. But that was I think that the overall experience from SIV was just the fundamental understanding of how to stall a glider and then being able to take that to motor. And yeah, that was what I took away from that, really.
I got a bunch of really good questions in the chat. We'll try to bang through these. I want to mention a couple sponsors real quick. iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. If you're interested in getting into paramotoring, no better place to get proper training than iflyindiana.com. Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground. Also, Lone Star Paramotor. LoneStarParamotor.com is the website. If you're in the Lone Star state of Texas, you can reach out to Ron Turan and his team for world-class training. LoneStarParamotor.com. Also, the show is brought to you by Resurgence PPG. If you're interested in supporting our men and women of uniform, you can make a tax-deductible donation to ResurgencePPG.com, and by donating, you're sponsoring those who have put their lives on the line for your freedom. So you can reach out to Todd Scandrett at ResurgencePPG.com, and you can even talk to him in the chat. He's in there right now. I really appreciate the sponsors of the show, and especially those guys that have been supporting the show on Patreon and PayPal over the years. You guys are awesome. So let's get into some of these questions. One, Hot Buttered Steve Productions. His question was, what are some of your strongest opinions about PPG, the community, and anything in general? I like that question. Very open-ended.
Yeah.
Strongest opinions.
I don't have... I mean, it's some strong opinions in paramotor. ground handling is fundamental. Reserve parachutes save lives. Not only should you be flying with a reserve or two, I fly with two, but you should understand how to use it, but not only how to use it, what happens when you use it, how they're packed, not how to pack them, but how it's packed, what's going to happen when you release that handle. Have an understanding of reserves, how to use them, and when to use them. That's super big to me right now. Chris Santacroce has been preaching that for a while, but if you have a reserve, learn more about it, get it repacked, and watch. Chris Santacroce has an amazing video on it. It just basically sums it up as, if you're thinking reserve, just throw it because you'll be fine.
I like that.
The other one I have is water. There's a lot of people. There's one. Okay, here's a hot take. Chucky Wright is the single most dangerous thing facing paramotor and freedom in the sport right now.
Preach.
Yeah, church. Let's. I don't want to address that any further, but that's my hot take on that.
We did a whole show on it, so you're safe.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage that's going on there, but just water in general. Go watch Team Fly Halo's Project Water Landing series. It's super dangerous. It's not something to be messed around with. When you're flying over water, you're taking risks. And then just progression, what gliders you end up on. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of room to speak on this because I did progress to a glider that was probably too hot for me too fast. But I just think that a lot of people are on wings that are too hot for them, or are using them as a crutch to cover up poor technique in maneuvers, i.e. wingovers. And I think it's more prudent to learn the dynamic stuff on a really benign glider because it forces you to do the correct thing and you're safer. I mean, when I went down to Aviator and started having access to A-wings again, I had to relearn how to do wingovers basically because I didn't know how to do them on. I mean, I knew how to, but just like how to get big on a Mojo, how to barrel roll a Mojo was like a foreign concept to me. Because if you can do it on there, you can do it on the Spicy Wing. But you can do it on the Spicy Wing without being able to do it on the A-wing. That's my other hot take.
Man, that's really good information.
Reserves.
I've never heard anyone say it like that. That is perfect. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's more forgiving to learn on the A.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, those are just two things that the biggest thing is the reserves and the water. Learn how to use your reserve, know how to use it, and then do an SIV when you're a 100-hour pilot and learn about stalls, because there's been a number of incidents where people don't know how to recover from a stall or spin configuration or know to get their reserve out, and they've lost their life because of that. Like, the best thing I could tell anyone is the glider knows better than you. No matter what happens, 99.9% of the time, the best reaction is just hands up and let it figure itself out. It's almost always an overreaction of the pilot. That's just coming directly from like Theo de Blick, just that mentality.
Mark Frazier had a great question. He said, "Hi, Judson. What's your favorite part of the filmmaking process? Shooting, editing, the finished product, or what?"
That's hard. I love and hate editing the most. I procrastinate editing so hard. I don't like to do it. When it works and all the content's there and you already have every clip you need and you just have to put it together and you already know what it's going to look like, then it's just super rewarding. I would say the best moment is when you render that video and then you watch it for the first time and everything works. You're like, this is sick. I don't know. I think that's just the immediate, like, cherry on top type of deal, but just the entire process of filming it, what you do while you film it affects your entire workflow later, that kind of thing. Learning how to color grade is super fun to me right now. just really getting videos to look the way I want it to look is fun.
A question from Matthew Pesci about the accident. Was there wing failure? And if so, is Ozone going to look at the wing?
Yeah, we can do like rapid fire questions too. There was damage to the glider when we inspected it briefly. It was a very old glider being flown significantly overweight. Oh, that's another hot take. Don't fly the friggin' wings that you're supposed to be flying within the weight range. Like, don't overload like 200 pounds or 100 pounds just because you want it to be a little bit more dynamic. But we don't really know what happened. I don't want to speculate on it. I would prefer it if the community didn't speculate on it until we can draw some real conclusions. We may never know what happened. It's just quite jarring to see a pilot who, I mean, one, taught me, but two, I looked to as the example of a responsible and safe pilot to lose their life in such a way. Jeff was so conservative as a pilot, so I don't know what happened, but yeah, it's
yeah, time will tell on that one.
Yeah.
Resurgence PPG said, please tell Judson to give Canyon, Jason, Boyd, and Matt a big hug for me. Mark Rogers wanted to know what video software you use. We're out of time, so we'll have to cut it short. But what video software do you use? He said he uses Camsta. I don't know. I can't read. Use your words, Robert.
Yeah,
Camtasia.
Camtasia. Okay.
So I'm on DaVinci Resolve. The reason was because it was the most featured free program I could get my hands on at the time, but now I don't regret that decision because it's probably the best all-around editing platform at this time in terms of support and features. But it is
what is it called?
DaVinci Resolve. There's a free version that's incredibly richly featured, and there's plenty of documentation online on how to learn everything.
Love it.
And it's stable, and it has the best color grading suite, and it has, all the audio editing stuff. It's brilliant. I love it.
We great. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Is it over?
Incredible episode. That's 1 hour. Yeah, we're gonna go to the after show.
Okay.
So we're still going to hang out. We always do. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. If you want to be a part of the after show and you're in the chat, you're hanging out, just put your, you want to hang out with Judson for a few minutes. You want to ask him some of your questions that we didn't get
Dave
to.
and Trevor better stay.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to jump on the after show. Just put your email in the description, or put your email in the chat, and then we'll send you over a link. And the email it won't get blasted because it thinks that it's spam, and so it won't, or it shouldn't share it with everyone if you're worried about that. There is a lot of people watching tonight, so there's like 95 people watching it at the peak, I believe.
Hello.
Yeah, so a bunch of people came. Yeah, so a really good show, really great feedback and great information. I would love to do it again, so let's stay tuned on your adventures and where they're headed. And if you want to follow Judson, there'll be a link in the description. You can follow him on Instagram or also on Patreon now. And he's got a website. What was your website again?
Just my name, judsongraham.com.
judsongraham.com. I'm surprised you got that. That's pretty awesome. That's a good...
Yeah, buy merch. It's not public yet. It's good to have a few test runs go through. It's not 100% yet. I mean, I'm just going to release it and see what happens and apologize later if something goes wrong. But I've done like 30 orders and it's been okay. So just give it a shot.
You can blame us because we forced you to release the information early. So glad you did. We're going to go to the after show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, those in the moderation. You guys are awesome. Thank you for taking care of the chat. All the people that have a tool next to their name have done something exceptional for the show. That's why they are moderators. And thank you guys for what you've done over the years. Really appreciate this. This was episode 217. So pretty awesome. We are going to go to the after show. Thank you so much, Judson.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching this lovely collection of people talk.
Paraglidingtalk.com. All right, we'll see you on the next one.